So when you first began the discussion question, when you started to answer it, what steps did you take before you began writing?
Discussion. So first I looked to see if anyone else made any comment, right, before I start writing. And yeah, so that was, I think, the first thing. I just scrolled down to check if there is any comment, and then I started to actually read the instruction that what exactly is the discussion is asking for. I don't recall if I did made the first post. I don't know why here says 0. I think I made a couple. It's okay.
Here it says 0 because that would be if you had clicked on the learning analytics before you'd posted, and then they all say 0 for some reason.
Yeah.
And I know you posted.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. So it has the last time you looked at the learning analytics showing one post.
Oh, I should. Okay. Yeah, but I mean, it's fine. I can. Yeah.
Do you remember that?
The last time that I clicked?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, it was a while ago.
Were you surprised by what you saw?
Yeah, the first time I clicked, I think it showed someone had 4 posts, but I didn't know that person because it wasn't in my group. So I thought it's a software error or something, because I was expecting to see my own group mates, like the people are in my class, in terms of how many posts they have. But it was actually based on the entire class, and targeted to people who signed up for the experiment, right? Yeah, so that's it.
Actually, it was the entire class, whether they did the experiment or not.
Oh.
But I like the fact that you noticed that it wasn't your group. It's surprising how many people didn't recognize that.
Oh, okay.
They just looked at the number, not the people.
Yeah.
So, actually, that's good. What do you remember most about going back and forth to the visualization? Because you did go a few times.
Yeah, so I was going to check to see, you mean this page, right?
Yes.
So just checking to see if anyone made more posts or, but to be honest, I only visited this page, I think once. That's why it shows 0 posts or something. So right. This belongs to the first discussion, not the second one.
Correct.
Right? Okay. And I did visit this page, but I didn't see this much of information. It has too many rows. So when I visited it, it was only I think 2 or 3 students at that time. I don't know why. Maybe I can open Canvas in my computer and show later. But when I opened it, the only thing I saw is 2 students, and it says this guy made 4 posts and this guy made 2 posts. And I said, wait a second, these are even not in my class. And then that was it. I didn't visit this page after.
Okay.
Yeah. And because I didn't know it's required to visit this page?
No, not at all.
Okay.
No, it wasn't required.
Yeah. I only visited this page once.
Did you make all the 4 required posts for the...
Yes.
Okay, for both discussions?
Yep.
Excellent. And could you see the learning analytics in both discussions?
I haven't checked.
Okay.
I can check because
it
wasn't...
you don't need to. I just didn't know if you did look in both.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because another thing we learned in IT 201 is the user is very goal-oriented. So because it wasn't in my goal, right? My goal was to do just 4 posts to finish the discussion.
Finished and done.
Okay, done. Close.
How did the information that you saw in the learning analytics influence your idea of your own learning?
Yeah, so to be honest, again, because it's goes back to the fact that I only visited this page once. But again, if the page was like this, to be honest, it's not gonna affect much of my learning, because it doesn't tell me that much. It only says, okay, this guy made 4 posts. Okay, not a big deal, or I made 1 post or 2 posts, if it's because the information that provided is not that detailed, right? So I can't actually make any decision, or it doesn't it's not going to affect me that much. But if the analysis is more, it provides more context in terms of, I don't know, if it's something interesting or something that Yeah, so it wasn't, it didn't, like, the time that I checked, okay, it was something similar that says, okay, this guy, the Kenneth, made 4 posts. Okay, not a big deal. Everyone's supposed to make 4 posts. That's good. Yeah.
Did you feel competitive at all with the people who had already posted?
In this particular, to be honest, no. In this particular discussion or study, not much. But when I feel competitive is in Canvas in particular, when I see like the grades released and I check the class average, right? Mm-hmm. And I see if the little blue box, which indicates where I'm at, right? It's above the average. So as long as I see that happen, it's okay, oh, okay, that's good. That's a relief. That's good. As long as it's not below the average. And once the times that it makes me happy is like the average is here, but I'm all the way to the top. And I say, oh, yes, I nailed it. Yeah, but...
So that's a useful visualization for you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Once I don't unplug myself there. Now, this is the other type of visualization that you could have seen. Mm-hmm. It's a heat map of the keywords, and unfortunately I need to make this smaller so you see it. So you would have seen your posts for mm-hmm. if you had coherently used the keywords here against that of the class. So mm-hmm. on this one, this person needs to get with the program. They're nowhere near the class average, right? Because at this point, the class has posted a great deal. So that's an example of what you could have used. Now, had you gotten that visualization, do you think you would have used it more?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, because the discussion was very specific about the keywords you need to use, right? So it had a focus that we know we need to, like, use, I don't know, perception, gestalt, these kind of things, right? So I think this is helpful in terms of, but again, in terms of like how it's going to improve my performance, I don't know, because it might say, it gives me an idea, okay, like the class is using these keywords, but they're supposed to. I mean, this is something that they've been asked to do, right? It's good to just know that. Yeah, so I think in overall, this visualization, it gives more information. It's more useful than the previous one, than just saying, okay, 3 posts. Yeah, I think this is more useful.
Okay. What other graphics would you have considered helpful? You mentioned your grade when you were mentioning your grades before. Yeah. Is that for every assignment or only exams?
Everything. As long as I see notification in my grade says 1 new grade, so I go and check, and so it indicates there is a little circle, blue circle, so there's that this is a new grade that released, and then I check, the average, and that's it. So your question is in general, or in Canvas, or?
In Canvas, for sure. For example, if instead of just the average for an exam, if you could see the performance on every question, would you want to see that?
Performance on every question. Yeah, so again, I think that might be useful, but it's not, for me personally, it's not very interesting to, Again, I mean, it goes back to what is the goal, right? So the goal here, I don't know, maybe for lots of universities, like a student, is like the grade A, if that's the most important thing, and then once they know the grade, and then they don't care. Like, okay, that's it. I don't want to. If I forget everything I learned, that's cool. I don't know. It's not me. I mean, in general.
Well, what's your goal? What would you like to see?
For me, what I like to see, I don't know. I never thought about it. At what else I want to see. Yeah.
Okay. Would you like to see more visual learning analytics implemented in future courses?
So by implementation, you mean on the current platform, Canvas, right?
Yes, unfortunately, we can't change that. You're still stuck with Canvas.
Okay, yes. So here's the thing, because the problem with sometimes with Canvas is you know, some professors they don't use Canvas and they have like their own platform. Like if you know Russell Taylor for IT233, he only uses emails. He just sends emails, right? We don't have like no Canvas, nothing, and there is no grade or something. Like he just sends a bunch of email, and the assignment and everything is just a physical model that each week we make and we bring it to class, right? And we don't know our grade until the very end of the semester, right? But that's like a design course, and like this is how he wants to manage it. But the problem with the Canvas, that like the instructor who use Canvas is they use it inconsistently, right? So some like Wolfgang, like the way that he uses, he only puts like one page. There is no module or something going on, and it's just a bunch of links and opens some PDF, and the PDF every time it looks different, and yeah, so it's completely inconsistent with the way that another instructor, like I don't know, Ken uses for IT 102, which has lots of modules and assignments and links and everything, right? So that makes it actually harder for people to you know, for a student, let's say SFU students, to actually use this analytics, analysis, like to enhance their learning, or to do more stuff. Because the problem is people are not, like, the way the students do not use Canvas the same way they use Facebook, right? So they know everything about Facebook, all the tricks and how to do this stuff, right? But they don't know the same, like that they don't have the same amount of knowledge for Canvas, because they don't work with it consistently, in their courses. So I think, yeah.
I think that's very good feedback, because even TAing, granted, I didn't come here for undergrad or anything, I haven't been here that long, but just in terms of how people use it, even TAing, it's just like, oh my gosh, make up your mind.
Yeah.
So yes, I've definitely seen that, a decent variety of the way things are here. And I've TA'd in other departments, and taught in other departments, and ours probably uses Canvas the least, next to like math and maybe history. Or what I've seen.
So what I guess, like, in terms of like courses which are related to technology and design, because it's evolving like super fast. Like some maybe traditional method of like training might not be that good. That's why, I don't know, I'm thinking that's why Russell used a different method, because the way that he teaches the class is more like one of like those, like, I don't know, not old fashioned, but like design schools, like, it's like
art school.
Art schools, like, it's different, right? So that's why I'm thinking maybe like in technology, because the content changed rapidly, right? Like in the course I'm taking 201, so it's about human-computer interaction, which just changes, like, I don't know, every month a new system that, change the entire everything. That's why, like, maybe, like, that's a reason that Wolfgang's slides are not that good,
right.
In terms
just
of design.
Throw it out there as soon as it comes. Throw it out there as soon as I just found this last night. Go.
Yeah, it looks like he just made it like a screenshot from something. It's not even a text.
From an email last night. Yeah.
It's so terrible. Yeah, but maybe that's the reason behind it, because it changed. So he can't actually like make a slide and use it for 5 years. Yeah, so he needs to change it like as it comes.
A lot. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. The type of course does make an issue, certainly. Which courses do you think might be aided most by visualizations in Canvas? What type of courses?
So here's the thing. In general, I'm a big fan of visualization, which I think is like easier to look at like something visual, like a shape, rather than just numbers and words, and try to interpret it, right? But here's the thing, like how we use that visualization are we using it for I don't know, to teach the core concept to a student, or just giving them some analysis of how they're doing, or so is it more targeted toward their performance, or actually using those like visualizations to actually help them to learn better, or faster. So if that's the case with the first one, which is we're just showing them some graphs or numbers, that okay, so you made it like I don't know, 200 posts, or you wrote like 20,000 words since you started university, right? That might not be that, even though like we compare them, okay, so there is a guy who wrote 1 million words. Oh, he wins. I don't know. If it's something like that, I don't think, I can't imagine how it can help, right? But what I'm saying in terms of like teaching the course concepts, it would be helpful if we could use like more visualization. And yeah, so I think if we do that, that would be more super helpful.
That would be helpful.
I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. Well, now we move to the alternative visualizations, and I had you look at them and rate them without. Oh, thought I turned that on. That's what I get for clicking it. Without knowing how they work necessarily, just based off the aesthetics. Each of them is very similar to what you already see here in that you see the keywords, you can, just like you can hover over these areas and get more information on the coherence. This is at the end of the class, so everything's high, but there are 3 levels here. Similarly, on these, you can click on them and get more information. So, for example, okay, this one's a bit more abstract. If we're looking at the avatars, sorry, it's down here on this one, you would pick one of these individual avatars, and then initially you'd get a line drawing. As your coherence increased, so too would the amount of information within the avatar itself. All of these information, or I should have started off by saying all of these alternative visualizations that you see here are designed to be persistent so that they're always there on the page. And that's part of the reason why the text isn't always there, or you can turn off the text just so it isn't cluttered. So if you had the avatar would be persistent there, and you'd see the changes in it, but it'd be not as, it would be more abstract than some of the others. Now, if, for example, you were looking at the polar coordinate, which is one of the ones where you can compare your information against the class, you would need to click or hover on it to get information about those individual keywords. Otherwise, you just have this part of the visualization there. So you could see that in these areas, you may need some improvement, but in these, you're doing well, as purple's the highest, correlates to the highest level. So, let's see. So that's that one. Again, with the buildings, the top one's rather self-explanatory. It's just like bar graphs. The bottom one, you would be represented by the light at the top, and this would fill. This represents the entire class. So for this one, for example, where it's white, no one's answered, right, on this one. So for the 2/3 of the class who have done this worked on this keyword or worked in this assignment, also this can be just assignments, they didn't do so well. Okay, but 1/3 of the class hasn't done it yet. So you'd see this, it would be updating as assignments got submitted or as discussions, the progression of discussions went on. For the fishbowls, this would be the individual view. So these could be individual assignments for you, and you could click on them and get more information. Again, it's just, persistent, it's there. Or this one, the fish could represent individuals. Okay, now that you know more about them, which ones would you use and why, and which ones would you not use and why?
Oh, okay. So, again, it depends on the context, right? So, which one I'm going to use? Okay, to be clear, are these all like charts are identical in terms of like the information they provide? It's just difference in how they appear, right?
Exactly. Yes, and the ones on the top are singular, so this would be only your information, whereas this information would be comparative against the class or against your group or whoever you're interacting with.
Okay. Yeah, so definitely so I think it's the simpler better, right? So I'm picking one from each, right?
Oh, you can choose as many as you want. Either.
Oh, okay. So for me, I prefer simpler representation because for me it's easier to understand, like, because I'm already familiar with pie chart and all these things, so it's easier for me to understand. So I prefer, so this one, I actually prefer these two.
Okay, the
right?
polar, both the singular and
Yeah,
okay.
and again, it depends on whether I want to compare myself with other to see how I did in comparing to other people. Yeah, so I choose those two.
In general, do you find yourself being competitive in your courses?
Um, yeah, I mean to some degree, right? To some degree, it depends, like in my goals in general, like my general goals in life and everything, right? And it depends on how valuable I think like getting like doing very well in school is important toward the goals that I want to achieve, right?
Do you?
I think like it's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. I don't think like necessarily like. Of course, I value like education and university and all these things, but it doesn't necessarily means like I like to be a designer, right? Like a designer, like as an experienced designer, not just someone who can design an experience, in any context. It's very broad at this point, but mostly focused in technology, of course. But I don't think necessarily it's just education is very important, of course. Like it's a like you need some foundation and knowing some theory and the stuff that people before you discovered and everything, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that if I do like if I get, I don't know, B minus or C something in one course, it means that I failed or I'm doing super bad and I'm not going to achieve my goals, right?